Alright, so I finally got a chance to ride this thing. I can't ride it today, it's like raining really good. But I finally got a chance to ride it and do some more stuff with it. And it actually does way better than I anticipated. I mean, for drill batteries, which is what I'm running, just a cheapo brand, but they are lithium good ones. But for now, it's just one little adapter I've made, and it's hooked to it. But eventually, I'm gonna make the battery setup better. But yeah, I can go somewhere around 2 miles round trip, which isn't too bad with three batteries. Yeah, they're little tiny amperage. So like I think they're two of my batteries are 1.5 amp hour and one of them is a 2 amp hour. So yeah, that's to be expected, and it's 4 volts less than this motor requires. This is a 24-volt motor. These are 20-volt batteries. So yeah, 2 miles for what I've got set up is pretty good, I think, and I like I said, I will be improving that. Just this is what I'm using for the local area. I'm surrounded by businesses, so this is good enough to take me to get a job, to go back and forth to the job, and all that stuff. And I did wind up, instead of headlights and taillights, I just put reflectors on it. I bent this piece down so that it would point down. I angled the handlebars up a little higher, just so that it could fully clear my knee easily, no worries. I mean, it was fine before, but like, you know. And then I also raised the front of the seat up by about 3 inches, and that makes it so much more comfier for adults. So before, this part of the seat was the lowest part, way down here, and so for little kids, because you're sitting on the front, unless you have a passenger and they're sitting back here, you know. But as an adult, if my butt was here, my knees were all the way up here, and that didn't work. So I sat back here, but it was like a slope downward. So I just raised it up like that, and it's sturdy. I'll paint this or something, or maybe one day make a metal version that looks better. But it's on there good, and the seat still opens and all that. And so that's much more comfier, and it's much more set up more like a mini bike now. I guess the seat is. I mean, I've seen people convert these little things over to a mini bike, but I'm not going to. I'd rather it be electric. Now that I finally got something set up for electric, I'm happy. And I adjusted the brakes. Now it's like if you hit them just barely, you lock up the back wheel. Because it took it a minute to stop before it worked. It's just they needed adjusted. It was all up here. When I put this piece on, I didn't have it adjusted properly. Oh, and I took the front piece off because, well, it wasn't really screwed on. It was held on by going up in the lip of the seat and down in this lip. When I raised the seat, it just kind of sat like down here and it looked ugly. And so to hide the wiring, I put them in this little zip up bag, all the wires, because I've got way more wire than necessary. And that's because I planned ahead for whenever I go to change everything. And so all the extra wire that's just kind of wound up and then taped together to keep it, secure is just shoved in here, and then this is zipped up. And that's just for the future when I go to, that way I don't have to worry. I can cut it and have the extra wire to route to the battery, or if I do it, I do want to get another motor and an actual motor controller to install, which will be around here somewhere. I'll try and fit it all here, nothing underneath. There's not much room underneath. Yeah. But yeah, so that makes it look a little better, and then like I said, I'll paint this. And I'm just gonna paint rubber and all because I'm just too lazy. I've tried on scooters before. These little wheels are kind of hard to take off and on the rim. So I'm going to paint rubber and all, try and sand as much loose stuff as I can down, take these wheels off, paint rubber and all. So, and to make it look a little better, I'll actually paint the whole rubber and all, and then just whatever's from riding will wear back to black probably. It'll look stupid for a little bit. It might look stupid forever. I don't care. I just want to kind of protect the rims a little better because they're already getting pretty good. They're not like structurally damaged yet, but I don't want them to fall apart on me. And that's the worst of it, is the rims. They're not really too terrible. You see, the rest of this, the frame doesn't. I'm assuming it's a steel frame. There's hardly any. I mean, yeah, there's little tiny bits of rust, so I'm pretty sure it's steel. But like, as you can see, the frame paint is, well, it was all protected by plastic. Of course it's good. It's the rims that were out in the open and stuff getting running over in the water puddles or whatever. The frame was all under plastic, so yeah, no wonder it's still good. And then my handlebars from the other bike are still all chrome and everything, still good. So yeah, it's actually in pretty good shape and it works pretty good. I tested it, like I said. I can fit 2 batteries in here, side by side, and then the 1 battery down there. I do intend to run it on 6 batteries eventually, whether that be 6 of the 2 amp hour or 6 of the 4 amp hour, and all of them will be in series, or not in series, in parallel either way. So it's still just gonna, for now, while it's got that motor, it's still gonna run on 20 volts. I can rewire it later to do series connection if I ever get a 36 or 40 volt motor for it. And then I'd have to have a motor controller too for one that big, I reckon. But yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna order the 3D printed battery adapters. This one's my homemade one, made out of an old Charger battery adapter that I had for a while with alligator clamps hooked to the wire so that I could like test things or use it to charge things or just power whatever I wanted. Well, I've got it hardwired into this scooter now, just so I could have a connector and be able to quick release my battery and all that. But it doesn't fully clip on the way it should, you know, because it's just for the little charger. Now, the ones I've seen on eBay a guy makes for like super cheap, whenever I can afford them, they go on like the bottom of a drill, basically. Like it goes all the way up here and clips on and stuff, and you have to click the thing on the battery to disconnect from it. And so I'm gonna order 6 of those, JB weld them all together, like make a big strip of them, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side of a thing. Then you can clip all the batteries together and it'll slip under here somewhere or somehow, and you can run on either 3 of them in parallel or 6 of them in parallel. And like I said, later on I can rewire it to be series connections or half parallel, and then those 2 in series. So either way, that's the plan. It probably will cost me as much. Honestly, I've been looking up the numbers to buy the extra ones of these drill batteries and those adapters and the speed charger for the batteries, because I only have 1 charger right now, and it's the slow one that come with one of my tools. One just like this little thing that I converted over. Takes all day to charge a freaking battery, pretty much. So yeah, I'll have a couple $100 in a good battery, but I'd rather have that where the batteries are all interchangeable, compatible, and it's cheap to replace cells as they go bad, like each battery, than one big e-bike battery that once it's bad, I mean, yeah, you can tear into it and try and fix it, but it's just easier this way, honestly, in the long run, for about the same price. Like I said, if you do the math, I'm getting 6 of them. I'm going to be running on 6 of them. If I get the 2 amp hour, which is the cheap $20 battery, that would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 amp hours at 20 volts if I do everything in parallel. So that's not too terrible for this motor anyways. That'll give me good range, pretty good range. Now, like if I do the 4 amp hour, which is their $50 battery, which is ridiculous, comparatively you're saving $10 if you just get more of the 2 amp hour ones. You're saving like $10. However, I only want to run like 6 slots to slide batteries, so it actually would be alright for me, or be beneficial for me, to get the more expensive ones eventually when I can afford them. Because I don't want to run like too many battery slots. I just want to run like 6 slots for convenience of size of the battery. But yeah, like the 4 though, that would be twice the size of the battery, so I would run half of that in parallel, so that would be 12 amp hours on 20 volts on one side, 12 amp hours on 20 volts on the other side, and then I could run those 2 sides in series for whenever I go to upgrade the motor and get a motor controller, so I could be running on 40 volts, 12 amp hour. So that's pretty much a decent e-bike battery right there. You know, it costs a pretty penny, but for the battery setup. But I mean, that's like I said, the convenience of being able to interchange cells and whatnot. And I know they're not always going to make that brand. I mean, the cheapo brands like that, they change them out every few years, every 2 or 3 years. They start making a different brand, and you got to start swapping out and buying different stuff. And then all of a sudden, a new battery and a new charger, what used to be cheap, starts getting more expensive because they're harder to find. So I know that happens. So, but yeah, so that's the plan. It's not great, but I kind of like it. I like the size. I like how small it is. I mean, it's still heavy, which is a good thing. But I trust it. It's not too light to where I think every time I hit a freaking speed bump, it's going to break on me. I don't trust that this looks like just a piece of crushed pipe. I don't like that, but that's the way it's made, because it's made for someone who weighs half my weight, probably. Never you mind what I weigh. But yeah, I mean, it's good. It's strong. I've been riding it. It's fine. I've seen plenty of adults ride these. Just don't be like almost 200 pounds trying to ride one of these things. That's ridiculous. It's not made for you. If that's how much you weigh, you don't get on it. You'll break it. I weigh more closer to 100 pounds than anything. So I'm not much more. I mean, I've seen two kids ride these, and two kids together, and the size kids these are made for is about my weight, and it pulls them just fine. So, like, it's made for someone my weight, basically. Just someone shorter than me. Two of someone shorter than me. But yeah, so I'm happy with it. It was cheap as far as that goes. It just cost me a trade, no actual money, and then I put some time and effort into it. Yeah, all said and done for the battery setup, which is what I want to do anyways, regardless of whether it's on this frame or a regular sized e-bike. That battery setup is what I want anyways. So whenever this starts to wear out or I find something better, still going to take that battery setup and put it on whatever else the next thing is. So that's happening regardless of whether it's worth it to put it on this frame or not. I'm still got to do all that, buy those parts and everything to build that battery hookup. So this will be a good little starter frame for me for e-bike stuff. Like, I've had one of these little Razor scooters before, the stand-up ones, not this little one. Like the ones that you stand on is like the E200 or E2 something. And it was pretty good, and I did something similar to it. I straight wired it because I got it for like $75, kind of messed up online. And I replaced the two big batteries that come in the floor of it, and the motor controller broke. So I straight wired it, and I replaced them with some homemade 18650 batteries. I had two 12 volt, well, they held a little more than 12 volt. They were like 12 amp hour a piece, 18650 batteries that I made, 12 volt. And I had two of those. I forget how many cells that was. Any of you who fool, I haven't fooled with 18650 batteries in a couple of years, or a few years actually. But I used to get them out of laptops and stuff from Recycling Center and all kinds of places. But yeah, so I had two of those, and they were just one battery. Both of those batteries together were lighter than one of the big batteries, and it was great. So, and they gave me a lot more power and everything, a lot more, lightweight, and they worked. I eventually took them out and used them for another project when this thing, or not this thing, but the other one, just the motor started crapping out. I don't think it could handle it. And also, I was in Kentucky. You're living in the flat part of the city in Kentucky. It's got little hills, and scooter just couldn't handle it. This little thing can handle it around here. It's the same size motor as was on the other scooter, though. On the stand-up one, exact same motor. But this one seems to handle it, which I do suspect, if I actually use this thing the way I plan to use it, like go to the store all the time and I'm not walking anywhere. As long as this thing is working, I'm using it. I suspect that motor's going to burn up soon, so I got to get money soon to get I'll just get the 36 volt. Hopefully they make a 250 watt 36 volt, because I don't need speed. I just need it to move me. So 250 watt 36 volt will be around what, 7 amps draw, which with my drill batteries the way I have now, that'll be great. I can just hook 2 of them in parallel, run it on 40 volts, and not draw hardly any amps. That means I'll get more distance on a bigger motor. But I don't know if I can find a 250 watt 36 volt motor like that one, like one that bolts on with 4 little bolt holes like that, and either already has a sprocket on it or takes that same one so I can just swap it over. I don't know if they make what I would need. Now I know they make a bigger that just bolt onto these things, like 500 watts or so. But at that point, I mean, you're using as much or more power. I don't want to do that. Anyways, I'm rambling. So, yep, that's my my motorcycle there. No, not that one, that one. That's my friend's. And they have that really nice one too. I'm more of a Honda fan, honestly. I like my Honda Shadows and all that. I've had a Honda Shadow VLX 650, Honda CB 750, and a Honda CX 500. The only Kawasaki I've ever owned was a Kawasaki Eliminator 125, which is not a dirt bike. Why do people always say, oh, it's a dirt bike? No, it's a cruiser. It's just tiny. It's like barely bigger than this scooter. It's a tiny scooter. It was the first bike I ever had. Rode it in a field around a circle without getting it out of first gear, and then sold it to my mom. Didn't really do anything with it. Didn't like it. It also had a lot of issues too. Needed fixing, carburetor and all that. But anyways, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Yeah, that's all.